Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I did receive a note that there may have been information that the webinar was to start at 10:45, so I'll go over some information here uh, again at the end for people that may be arriving late. But what has changed? We have hurricane and surge watches that have been issued for coastal areas. Here's a look at the latest information on Tropical Storm Beta. You can see the track here has actually shifted a bit further north than what we were looking at earlier. The storm has been on a north-northeast track and still expected to make that left turn as we go through the day tomorrow and approach the Texas coast. And then at about the time it reaches the Texas coast, it tends to want to ride up the Texas coast. Now you can see the stippled area there. That's the 4 to 5 day part of the cone, so there's still a large uncertainty, even based on the cone, on where the center may actually end up, which will make a big difference as far as the rainfall and the wind impacts. Here's a look at the latest satellite. You can see quite a bit of thunderstorm activity around the tropical storm. It has intensified. It's now 60 mile per hour. Quite a bit stronger than it was earlier today. And it is forecast to become a hurricane. There is a fairly large wind field with this tropical storm, and that's in part why it's pushing quite a bit of water toward the coastline. Let's take a look here at the timing for the tropical storm force winds and also the likelihood of tropical storm force winds at any point. First, the timing arcs, you can see they look to arrive on our coastline Sunday night, most likely. Given that it's a little stronger and a little larger storm, that's why the timing on this has been moved up just slightly to Sunday night. And then those highest probabilities are really lower and mid Texas coast, really up to Galveston Bay, but pretty high probabilities now. Really greater than 50% over most of the Texas coast. Again, these are point probabilities of tropical storm force winds. How about the 50 knot or 58 mile per hour winds? The probabilities there you see are more focused down toward the south. This is through 5 days. Now remember, this is a fairly slow moving system, so there is a scenario where we could get even hurricane force wind gusts up the coast should the storm intensify to a hurricane and then crawl kind of up the coast at that point. So maybe a little bit misleading, but through 5 days, those higher probabilities are further south, down toward Matagorda Bay and points south. This is some tide model data that we did not have access to earlier today. There were some computer-related issues at our national center. And I did want to spend a little time on this. These are from the extratropical surge model, which works well if the winds that are driving it are fairly accurate. It works well away from the center of a tropical storm. And it's showing, we'll look first at Galveston. And what we're seeing here are tides above 4 feet above mean lower low water by tomorrow evening. And then by Sunday morning, we're up above 5 feet. And then Sunday evening, we're up near 6 feet. And so this is similar to what we briefed earlier, kind of a 4 foot to 5 foot to 6 foot progression around Galveston Island as we go through the day, through the weekend. Now notice the predicted levels, appear to be coming down late, like on Tuesday and Tuesday night. And I'd be cautious about that element of it. We think, once the tide levels are up, they're going to stay up as long as we're dealing with the storm until it's past us. So we think we'll probably see those 5 to 6 foot levels really through midweek anyway. And then it's the same data on the lower right, but graphed relative to mean higher high water. This is basically the depth of water at the high tide line, the high tide line. So it gives you an idea of how deep the water can be in the low-lying areas, like the beaches and other low roads and such. And so there we're looking at 3 to 4 feet above mean high water. There is a storm surge watch in effect for the entire area. We're switching that over from our coastal flood warning. Really, the impacts are the same, just a bit of a different name there, but you can see some pretty significant levels still looking at these tide models. Same thing for Freeport. You can see slightly different progression here. We're up near 4 feet by Saturday evening, and then up close to 5 or even a little bit above 5 feet Saturday night and Sunday, actually Sunday morning and Sunday evening. And then when you compare that, and that's compared to mean lower low water, which many emergency managers are used to looking at. But compared to mean high water, once again, looking at peaks up around 3 foot or a little bit higher relative to mean high water. So again, anything 5 foot or even a little bit above, it typically is moderate coastal flooding. So we're looking at the same type of things in Brazoria County. Eagle Point, we had some questions during the day about what about near the western shore of Galveston Bay. So this guidance can help us with that. You see a lot of the similarities here, but maybe a little bit later start in the rise. Water levels around 3 feet as we go through Saturday, but then rising Saturday night to above 4 feet by Sunday morning, and then peaking above 5 feet Sunday night into Monday. And again, those high levels, once the waters rise, it's going to be very slow to drain out, especially if we have a tropical storm or hurricane working its way up the coast. The levels may actually go up higher from what we're seeing. And above mean higher water, we're talking 3 to 4 feet above mean high water. Pier 21, just a little bit different part of Galveston Bay, more the bay side of Galveston Island. And similar here, again, values relatively low Saturday morning, but then rising Saturday afternoon and night. So by Sunday morning, we're looking at values up around 5 feet or a little above at Pier 21 as well. Compare that to mean high water, looking at 3 to 4 feet. By comparison, we saw some of these levels post-Laura. We had quite a bit of coastal flooding on the barrier islands, and we had 4 feet above mean high water in that case. So, and again, these are just estimates. A stronger storm, a slightly different track could mean even higher values than we're reporting here. What about rainfall? As we've talked about the last couple days, it's going to depend all on the track. Late this afternoon, we were getting more confidence in a track right up the Texas coast. Now, there's still some play on whether it's along the coast, maybe just off the coast, maybe even inland. So that's going to make a big difference on exact amounts. But looking at this 7-day total here, where they're showing 10 to 15 inches for the coastal counties, that gives you an idea of the potential there. Any shift either way can bring those heavy rains inland as well. Tracks further east, that's our best case scenario as far as the rain is concerned, would mean less rain for us. So forecast confidence still lower than average. The storm is fairly weak steering currents, and as we saw with Marco, for example, you typically get quite a few changes in forecast track, but it does still look like it is going to make that left turn and come pretty close to the Texas coast. It's going to give us that minor to moderate coastal flooding. That's probably the feature we're most confident of because it's not as sensitive to the track of the storm. We have a very large circulation in a large area of east to northeast winds over the Gulf that's driving some of this high water. And then we are still concerned about heavy rain and flood potential. Gusty winds, now that we have a hurricane watch up, maybe that's a bit more of a concern. Earlier we thought strong tropical storm but there is the potential, given that it has strengthened somewhat already, that we could see hurricane force wind gusts, especially along the coast. And again, that'll depend on that track and the intensity, which are among the more uncertain parts of the forecast. So